What's up guys, Justin Fuller here, and I'm outside of a 2021 Honda Civic Sport sedan. This is the final year that they're producing the 10th generation Civic before they move to a new body style. So let's take a look at what's going on with the 21. What's up guys, so let's take a look and see what's underneath the hood of this vehicle. So as I pull you in, I'll remind you that the LX and the Sport model come with a 2-liter engine. This is putting out 158 horsepower, which then translates over to your CVT transmission and moves out in this particular model to your 18-inch alloy wheels. Now as I wrap around the car, I'll talk about a couple things. Of course, you've got some space back here so you can tuck things away into auxiliary lights or whatever you want to do. My windshield wiper fluids are going to be right here. I can get to my reservoir related to my radiator. As we move around, of course, my oil dipstick. I've got my air box. I've got, some fuses, and then of course I have access easy to both terminals on my battery. Now, let's talk about gas mileage. This car gets 29 in the city, and then it gets 37 on the highway. So what I'm gonna do is throw up a comparison on the screen so you can see some other vehicles that will live and compete against this car. Now, after we've looked at that and kind of compared, the next thing I wanna do is talk about that horsepower. So we're talking about this 2-liter engine that puts out 158 horsepower. Let's look at some other vehicles out there that kind of compare and see what they're offering in trim levels similar to this. So as we make our way around the car, I just wanna talk to you about some features you're gonna see. This car comes with this 18-inch alloy smoked wheel, so that's going to be indicative of this Sport model. So when you're moving up from the LX, this is going to be one of those features that you get. Now, as you wrap around, you will notice that you get body colored not only mirrors, but your door handles additionally too, and it is a smart key entry, which is nice when you're moving away from that base model. So when you're looking at your fob, it's going to look a little bit different. You're going to see the display like this with a remote start built into it. To use remote start, press the lock button and then press and hold the remote start button, and that'll fire it up. You want to run it for an additional 10 minutes, making it out to 20. Press that same sequence again, and it'll run for 20. I'm going to turn it back off, so I'm going to press the unlock and the remote start, and we'll turn the car off. So as we continue around the car, I will point out that this car has been tinted here at the dealership. So this isn't something you would find normally. The dealership has added that feature to the car. Everything else you're going to see on this car is stock on the vehicle. Now, as we get around to the back, you of course have your LED lights on the back. They do offer this kind of cool HDMI looking exhaust setup, which I'm a big fan of. I think it's definitely a cool and interesting look. And then of course, I'll point out that your backup camera is gonna be right there, so that way you can see it. And then of course, the car's badged with the Sport Honda Civic and then the logo. So let's go ahead and pop open the trunk, which you do have that quick release since it is a smart key entry. And then as we look into here, of course, you have your carpeted floor mats, which comes standard in the car, so you don't have to pay extra for those. And then you've got a 60-40 split back there, meaning I can throw it on one side, and then I can throw it on the other side. I don't have to throw them both down. And you can see right now, I do have one of them thrown down so I can get through and up into the car. All right, so underneath here is where you're gonna find your spare, your jack, and all your accessories needed as far as changing your tire, along with the funnel there, which I'll explain how this funnel works here. All right, so your gas cap is created and connected to your door lock. So if I have my doors unlocked, all I've got to do is press and this will pop open. So kind of nice that you don't have to go looking around for stuff. And you can see I just watched some dripping off there. But inside of here, you'll notice that there's a valve, right? So it keeps it closed. So I don't have a cap, it's capless. So I don't have to worry about setting off the check engine light, right? So it's kind of cool. But where this funnel that I was talking about comes into play is if I ran out of gas, I would need something to hold this open while I pour gas into it. So that's where this comes into play. And that's what it's for, just so you know. All right, guys, so here I am in the second row of this car, which you can see if I stick my head way up, it doesn't touch, but you can't see me, right? So I just want to talk to you about legroom space. I've actually got a decent amount of space here that you can see I'm working with. And this is with the seat almost pushed all the way back. So you can see my driver's side is pushed back to my height, which I'm a 6-footer, right? So while we're here, I'm just going to talk to you about second space as far as legroom goes. And I'm going to throw up some comparisons so you can see what other cars compare as far as having that knee room inside of your car. Now, as we come into the car, I will point out, if you could see it, that this does have a leather combo mix, right? So up the centers of my seats, you're gonna have kind of a neoprene finish, and then along the trim of the sides and in the center, you're gonna have a leather material. So this is like a hybrid mix when it comes to the interior of the vehicle, which you can also see here on the seats right here. I've got the leather on the side and then the cloth around the back. So as we move into the front row, I'll talk to you about everything as far as the dash layout and how the seats look up there too. All right, guys, so here I am at the front of the vehicle, and I'm gonna start to wrap us around, and I just wanna point out that both of your seats are gonna be manual adjustments. So you don't have power seats. You're gonna need to climb models if you wanna get to those kind of items. Now, I will point out again that, of course, this is a leather blend with that neoprene finish. So you can see it right up here. I've got the leather trimmed on the outside, and then that cloth center with kind of a racing stripe that's checkered. So it's kind of a sporty good look, and it makes sense landing in this vehicle. And then, of course, your steering wheel is gonna be leather, and then your center console rest is gonna be leather additionally, too. Now, as we move around to the side, I just want to put out a couple quick features, and that would be your door and window setup is right here. Of course, your window locks, your door locks, and your mirror controls, and then I can pop the trunk, and then if I need to pop the hood, my easy access buttons are all right here and available to me. All right, so let's start off and look it over on the left side of the dash. So as we look over here, there's 3 different buttons that you're gonna see. The first being my road departure mitigation, which if it's lit up with the LED, it's letting you know that if I start to drive off the shoulder of the road, it'll give me an audible alert, and it'll actually shake the wheel to say, hey, wake up, pay attention. You're gonna start, you know, to obviously crash the car. Now above that is your collision mitigation braking system. This works, of course, with your cameras inside of the car. So this is set up with Honda Sensing. So you've got a camera right up here, and then you've got radar down in the grill, right? And what this is gonna do, if it's looking like I'm hitting another car, what it will do is it'll give me an audible alert, then it'll give me a visual alert in the dash, and then it'll actually start to apply the brakes to help prevent me from rear-ending another car out in front of me. So that's collision mitigation braking scene right there. And that's always on and running unless you press and hold to turn that off. Now next to that is gonna be my vehicle traction control settings. So what this is vehicle stability assist. If I start to lose traction, it'll transfer power to whichever wheel is getting better traction in the car to help correct for a skid. All right, so here we are on the steering wheel, and it's a nice small steering wheel, so it actually gives me a lot of leg space in between here, which I do like in case you're a bigger guy. You know, I'm a 6-footer. When you start to get a little bit bigger, you need that leg room as far as getting into the car, and I'm at about 240, so I'm not a little dude, right? So just you can kind of understand as far as your presence and where you're gonna live in this car and how much space you're gonna have. Now, over here on the left side of the steering wheel, I will point out that you have your Bluetooth controls, right? So to answer a call, to hang up, use voice command. This will also work with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto as far as the voice commands with there too. Now, this I button right here with the boxes and screens, I should say, will actually toggle between your screens up here. So as I hit it, it'll toggle between all these options as far as audio, Bluetooth, miles per hour to kilometers per hour, my oil life and gas. So right here, you're seeing, you know, previous trips, and then oil life if I want to hop into that. And I can enter all of these screens and then back out of these screens and kind of continue on moving. So just so you understand, as far as audio, you know, it'll let me jump through, and then I can use the up and down buttons to toggle between any of my options. So right, AM and FM is what's popping up here. You know, if I had Bluetooth hooked up, if I had USB, anything else, it would give me additional options to toggle between. So that's how this works, right? So I was just using that up and down button. Now your volume controls are gonna be right here. And then of course you have the pad when you do get into menus to scroll around and then select enter. And then if you need to back out of a screen, use this same button right here, the backup button or the hang up button. Now over here on the right side is gonna be 2 of your Honda Sensing connections, right? So if I hit the main button, it's gonna turn on ACC and LKS come up there. So you can see those button flashings at me. And that stands for Adaptive Cruise Control and Lane Keep Assist. So Lane Keep Assist is this button right here. If I press that, you're gonna see some dotted lines appear up there. Now with these dotted lines that you can see flashing at you right now, so I'm hitting the button a bunch. What it means is it's gonna use this camera up here to detect the lines on the road, right? So when it picks them up, if you start to drift to your left or your right, it's gonna help correct in the steering of the vehicle. So this is assuming that you're not using your blinker to get over and out of that lane. So that's how that works. So if you're one of those people that doesn't typically use your blinker, this is probably not gonna be a feature you're gonna enjoy, right? Now, as far as adaptive cruise control, it's just a classic cruise control, right? Except once I've selected my speed and set it, I can then select the distance it keeps between me and the car in front of me using this button. So it's gonna use that camera and the radar down in the grill. And then when I hit this, you'll see boxes appear up there. The more boxes, the more space it's gonna keep between me and the car in front of me, right? So easy enough to understand there. Now, behind the steering wheel, you do have paddle shifters, so I can upshift and downshift the vehicle. So this just allows me a little bit more control over the shifting points in the car in that CVT transmission. So it gives you a little bit more power or performance, I guess, that you can control, right? So down here is gonna be my lighting control. So I do have auto on-off headlights, and then I do have fog lights here. And then moving over to the other side, I have my windshield wiper controls on the right stalk. Now, over here, you'll see that it is a push-button start along with remote start that we discussed earlier. So know that you get that inside of this vehicle versus in the LX model. All right, guys, so let's talk about the touchscreen inside of this vehicle. All right, so it's pretty cool. It's got a lot of customization that's available to you. And if you want to learn some tips and tricks, I have made videos on previous versions which work on this car the previous year and the year past. And I'll throw that up on the screen. Maybe I'll throw it right up here so that you can check it out if you want, just to see some of the different things you can do with the screen. So let's start in and show you a couple things. So this is your home screen that you're seeing right here. So as far as audio-wise, once I select it, I can then, see obviously that I have my AM pulled up here. I've got my station list here. I can jump around. It's pretty easy to work with, right? So not a hard thing to jump through. When I go to my source button, this is gonna give me all of my options. So I've got FM, AM, of course USB, iPod, anything with an I will pretty much connect up to this car. Bluetooth-wise, so if you're an Android user, no worries, you can connect up to. I have my phone connected up to Android Auto right now. Pandora compatibility, if you're a Spotify user, no worries, you can either go via Bluetooth, or if you're going through Android Auto, which I'm gonna show you here in just a second, you can access it there too. So to use Android Auto, you're gonna wanna plug into the USB, which I've already done. I've got my phone plugged in. It takes you about a minute to connect up. USB actually lives right down, which I'll see if I can slide it down. Right down inside of here, they've tucked away the cord, and it actually runs back behind the dash, so it's nice, it'll keep your wires tucked away. So let's turn this right back up here, and we'll keep going here. So when I touch Android Auto, let me just, briefly go over this with you and kind of explain how it works. So you can see the last song that I had pulled up, and that's running via Spotify. And you'll see that it's a red and black display, indicative of the Sport. They always do red and black trim as far as the interior when you're looking at the dash layout, you're looking at the touchscreen, anything like that. So I'm gonna jump out of this for just a second here, right? So I can jump into Android Auto, and this gives me all my options, right? So initially it pulls up Google Maps for me just because that's what I typically use, but you have access to Waze and Apple Maps if you're an Apple user. Now if I touch the home button down here, it's gonna give me all my options. So you'll see Spotify, my Google Maps, Waze all right there, and then my weather. And then I can scroll down here and get to some of these other. Now, I don't use a lot of the apps that you'll typically find on here. However, there are quite a few apps. So whether you're into podcasts, whether you're into getting, your sports audio, or just general audio, or it's more of a GPS thing if I want to use TomTom or I want to use different things, know that there are a lot of options. So I'm going to throw some, 15 of the most popular ones up on the screen now so that you can kind of check that out and see, hey, maybe some of these apply to me, maybe some of them don't, right? But I typically just use my Google Maps, my Waze, and then of course Spotify, right? So those are kind of why I have them sitting up top. Okay, so that is kind of the rundown of how this works. Note that you have the voice command button. I can always hit it over here or off the steering wheel, which I was pointing to earlier. On the left side, you have that voice command button there too. Okay, so that's kind of the audio options. Info-wise, this is just gonna pull up two things. One, you can get tripometer information, and then two, you can get a clock and wallpaper. So if you just want this in a large visual place, you can absolutely get to it there. Or, you know what I mean, if I wanted to pull up just like a screensaver, because you can customize it, you could absolutely put something right here, whether it be a picture or whatever you want. So you just click on there. All you need to do is load up a USB drive, and then you could come into here and add that in, right? So I would go to next. From there, I would jump through and then just go to my wallpaper. They give you some different options, or you can add new, right? So if I want to do that, I could. Obviously, you can't do it from your phone, which is connected up right now. It has to be a USB drive, so just a reminder on that. Now, moving down, Honda Link is a cool feature. When you initially connect up your phone, it's going to prompt you and say, hey, in the event that you get in an accident, would you like Honda to be able to provide your information to 911? So I would always hit yes and do that. It's just going to be super helpful to you. That wasn't what you were seeing right there on the screen, but this is what Honda Link looks like when you pull it up. You can connect up via the app to the car, and it's just going to give you maintenance reminders and different notices depending on the trim level of the car. So if you get into like a touring model or something like that, you do have some other options depending on the car, whether it's being able to start the car from your phone or being able to control the door lock. So you can always go to HondaLink.com and check out what options are available for not only what cars, but what trim levels specific to those cars. Now, phone, once you've connected up, it's pretty easy to do. I plugged my phone in and it just automatically connected via the Android Auto app, and then it does this for me automatically, but you can connect up to the car too, and I'll show you how to do that here in a second. But I can add in my favorites here, just click on one and go find them, go to my phone book, and obviously I can get to any of that, info right there, and then I'll have all my contacts that I can toggle through, right? So easy to use and understand as far as that goes. Now, if you've already connected one phone up and you want to add a second, third, or fourth, know that you can connect up to 6 devices. All I gotta do is go to Bluetooth right here under settings. Once I am there, I want to go do the device list right there. And then under the device list, I can add additional ones, all right? So add new device and then go from there, right? So easy enough to do. Now, under settings, there are a couple other features that I like to show people, and they are under the vehicle settings, right? So if you want to control your door locks and change them, right now the way the car is set up, so I'm going to go to door and window. The way the car is set up, when I hit 10 miles an hour, it'll automatically lock the doors. I can change that here if I want it when I shift to park, or if I want to turn it completely off, right? I just want it to lock when I lock it and unlock when I unlock it. And then below that auto door unlock, when I open my driver's side door to get out, it's then gonna unlock the remaining doors of the car. I'm not a big fan of that feature. I like to change that to maybe when I shift to park or something else, just because if it takes me a while to get my stuff together, everybody else is trying to reach for their doors and find the lock and all that. It just becomes a pain in the butt to deal with, right? So just something to know. And then at the very bottom, this one's really cool, the walkaway auto lock feature. It's not on by default, which is dumb to me. I don't know why Honda doesn't change this, but if you turn that on, when I get out of the car, if I have my key fob with me, when I get 10 feet from the car, it'll automatically lock the doors. So a really cool feature, and that is called the walkaway auto lock. So I would suggest you turn it on if you're one of those people who gets halfway to the grocery store and realizes, oh my God, I don't know if I lock my doors and my laptop's in the car, right? Easy enough to understand. And how I got to those, I'll take you back one more time. Settings, go to vehicle, and then you want door and window right here. Easy enough, right? There's plenty of other options you can play with in there, but those are probably the big 3 if you're buying the car, this is fresh to you, or if you just want general settings, those would be the 3 that I would play with, right? So that's the touchscreen, as you can see. Additionally to that, I've got, APK installer, but to be honest, unless it's a Honda APK, they've kind of locked this down. If you live in another country, sometimes they've left it open to you. And then if there's any available widgets, which there's not, right? So just know that there are some customizations that you can do as far as this coloring in the background, laying images behind that, changing the skins, all kinds of different things. settings in that video that I mentioned earlier. So just know that there is a settings video that I've made that you can check out. So that's the touchscreen. Now, as far as the AC controls, they're all right here. If I hit the AC button, it'll pull them up on the screen. Now, I'm not a huge fan of this because if it's hot outside and I just immediately get in the car and crank this on, yeah, it turned the fan up, but it didn't turn the AC on, right? So if you live in Texas, you can use remote start and get the fan on and get the car cooled off. But, you know, or if you're in a cold place, you can get it hot and turned on. But, you know, I like to be able to turn the AC on, not just blowing air around in the car. So a simple thing, but, you know, I'm sure it's fixable. And then, of course, I have my rear defrost, my front defrost, right? And then, you know, circulate or fresh air in. Now, when it comes to the center stack, I do want to point out a couple things here. And the first is, of course, they made this wire that tucks behind and it runs back there, right? So kind of clean cut there. But when it comes to my phone, I use a Google Pixel 3. And if you're like a larger iPhone user, you're going to find that it won't really, you know, sit somewhere exactly with it plugged in. It's kind of a weird, you know, I'm moving it all around and doing these different things. So it's just not quite big enough. So I wish they could change that. My shifter is right here, you know what I mean? So I can move through all these, whether it be my sport mode, my drive, my neutral, my reverse. When I throw it in reverse, it will throw on my backup camera for me, which you'll see, and it does have guidelines, so it'll cut dynamically with me as I cut the wheel. And then I have 3 views here, right? So I've got a wide angle, I've got a normal, and then one aimed straight down. So if there's something parked behind my car, whether it be my kid's bicycle, my dog, whatever it may be, 6 inches from the car, 2.5 feet from the car. And that's the same on all of these. So if you're parallel parking, you want that car to be on the other side of this line right here. So that is how the backup camera works in this car. Now, brake hold is set up where if I have this engaged, and when you press it, it'll, you know, show you kind of how to set it up. You gotta have your seatbelt on. But what it is when I'm in drive, it'll hold the brake for me while I'm in drive, right? So I could let my foot off the brake. So if I'm in like stop and go traffic, that's where this plays a role. Now, your parking brake is electronic. Just pull up to set it, press down to release it. Easy enough to understand. My econ button, when I press that, you'll see a green leaf appear here. It's just gonna give you better gas mileage. And in doing so, what it's gonna do is it's gonna essentially rev a little bit lighter, right? So it's the opposite of like a sport mode where it would rev at a higher RPM, give you more get up and go. So you're gonna give up some things when you're using this though. A little bit of a power off the pedal, which while I'm down there, I'll point out that you do have aluminum pedals down here that are sport modeled. And then you're also gonna give up a little bit of your AC control. In doing so, it's gonna give you better gas mileage. So that is the econ button. Now, as we shift around here, you got your cup holders here, and then you can shift into a deeper cup holder. So if you got something, you know, extra big, and then I have additional USB down in here, then I have a sliding armrest. So if you have to slide it forward, you can kind of hide stuff, you know what I mean? And just different things I can do. I can pop it open, right? So easy enough to understand there. Up above me, you know, I've got my standard mirror, no moonroof in this car. You got to climb up to the EX for that. And just your normal, what I call new car stuff, right? Like these don't need explanations as far as what's going on in the car. As far as looking out the back window, that's what you're looking at. So it is a tight window. You do have a porthole here, which I like. Helps out with that blind spot, so I'm not drifting my head completely over as I'm doing things. So I just kind of like that I have that available, that little porthole to help see out of the back of the car. All right, guys, so that's kind of the quick and dirty rundown to the 2021 Honda Civic Sport. So realistically, what you're looking at here from 2020 to 21 is really not much change other than a couple $100 as far as the increase in price of the vehicle, right? So you could hold out and get that new 11th generation that'll be landing in the 2022, or if you're a little worried about that, you want something that's tried and true and been tested, this would be a perfect model to get. If you can get your hands on one, obviously, or if you want to look at that 2020, since there's really no changes, you would absolutely be okay with that too. Now, this vehicle is $23,805, and that is with your destination included, which I believe is $995, but don't quote me on that, I'd need to double check. So it's a great move from the LX up to this. I would highly recommend it just because of all the additional features you're getting. You're getting those 18-inch wheels on the outside, you're getting kind of the smoke grille, the deck lid spoiler in the back. It's just a good looking car. You're getting remote start, keyless entry. I mean, it's a good list of items you're getting by moving up that, I think, roughly $2,000. I'll throw it on the screen so that you can see kind of what that difference is. And I'll also throw something on the screen so you don't have to look at my pretty face of, hey, if I move from the Sport down to the LX, what are the features I'm giving up? So you'll see a list of those appear on the screen too. So that way you can kind of understand, hey, how much am I giving up if I move down a model? And then after that, what I'll show you next is, hey, if I want to move up to the EX, 1, what's my price increase, which you'll see pop on the screen, and then 2, what extra items am I adding to the car? So that way you can kind of understand if I drop down or if I'm going up, what am I getting by going up, right? If I spend the extra amount of money, which I think is about $2,000 there too, what am I getting out of those bucks spent? So other than that, let me know what you think. I look forward to hearing from you. Do me 4 favors. 1, I hope you'll like the video. So click that like button for me. 2, I hope that you'll subscribe to the channel. You know, if you want more videos and you want to learn more about Hondas and some other cars, subscribe to the channel. 3, I hope that you'll share it. Share the video. You got some friends in a Civic group. Maybe they're on Facebook. Maybe it's just a friends that you all email back and forth. I don't know. Send this video over to them. Let them check it out. Maybe they'll like this and some of the other videos that I've made, especially if they have a 10th generation Civic already. And then 4th, I don't got a 4th right now, but if I had a 4th, I'll throw it up on the screen and maybe you'll do it. Other than that, I just want to say thanks again. Later, guys!